Okay, so for today, we will just be continuing our topic last time with the PMRC and feasibility studies. And meron actually tayong hindi pa natatapos na topic, no? Aside from PMRC and feasibility studies, we also haven't finished yet the sampling. Kasi so far, the sampling na na-discuss natin ay ano pa lang, grab and drilling. If you would remember, we only discussed those two. We still have quite a few more methods to study, okay? And then, I also asked you last night, well, kanina, very late, no? Na-realize ko kailangan pala ng calculators nga for may mga calculations tayong gagawin mamaya-maya. So, ready lang. Tapos, yeah, I hope you can use them to your advantage. Okay, so just to recap, we discussed the PMRC. We remembered na ito pala ang sinusunod sa mga exploration results, sa mga reports, public reports, no? Tapos we have two editions. The former one was 2007 and the more latest one is the 2020 edition. Tapos we learned about sino-sino yung mga bumubuo dito. We learned about the other equivalent codes all around the world, like the JORC, the SAMREC, the CRISCO or the SERISCO. Tapos we learned about also the famous or the infamous rather BRIEX scandal and why it was the catalyst for the PMRC being made. Okay. And we learned about the categorizations. This is very important, no? You have to remember this all throughout maybe your entire career in the mining industry. If you're gonna work there, you should know the categorizations of mineral resources rather, and mineral reserves, as well as the different subcategorizations and the movements kung paano siya mag-shift from one form to another. Okay? So review or at least remember if you might want to go back to the previous lectures on that. Now we stop at the next portion, which is actually the feasibility studies. Okay, so before there was a bit of a lack of information about the feasibility studies in the 2007 PMRC edition, but in the 2020 edition, may mga specific sections na nag-expand or nag-expound ng mga nangyayari sa ating feasibility studies. So last time I mentioned that there are three. Even though it's collectively called feasibility studies, there are three levels. You have the scoping, okay? The scoping or conceptual study, okay, na-discuss na nga natin to. And then we also have the second part, which is the pre-feasibility or preliminary feasibility study, okay? We talked about ano ba yung accuracy niya. So, plus minus 30%. So, mukha siyang malaki, no? Pero actually, normal yun. And then we look at, okay, dito tayo nag-end. So, we are now going to talk about engineering evaluations. Ang engineering evaluations ay under siya ng pre-feasibility study, okay? Or ng preliminary feasibility study. So, ano ba ang nilalaman ng mga engineering evaluations, okay? So, from the word itself, engineering evaluation should be done by engineers. So, pwedeng mining, pwedeng metallurgical engineers. In a way, geologists can also help out, especially in topics that are concerned with engineering geology and those kinds of things, okay? So there are three sub-phases, or at least there are three stages to engineering evaluation, okay? So baka nagtataka kayo, under siya ng preliminary feasibility, yung engineering evaluation, tapos meron pa ulit siya. So parang may sub-stages yung engineering evaluation, no? So these are conceptual study. Take note, iba yung conceptual study dun sa unang stage of yung scoping study natin, no? So yung scoping, okay, that one is for feasibility. The conceptual study here is for engineering evaluation, okay? So I hope you get the difference. So conceptual study, engineering study, and detailed design study. So the difference lang between these three is as you go down, okay, the more sure you are about the methods, the layouts, and systems. Take note of, bring out my pointer here. So dito sa una, sa conceptual study, it's the physical characteristics and production potential. So may keyword potential, mga characteristics pa lang. Tapos pagdating sa engineering study, you now quantify and compare the possible methods, the possible layouts, the possible systems, and then you can now create designs and estimate the costs, okay? And then finally, detailed design from the word itself. So dapat ay detailed na yung mga drawings, specs, methods, layout systems, pati yung mga ano niya, gagastusin perhaps on those. Okay? So take note, yung engineering evaluation more on the technical side dun sa mining methods, ano yung mga gagamiting equipment, ano yung mga basically technical and engineering factors doon sa iyong mine. Okay? Okay, so that is still under pre-feasibility. So what else are under pre-feasibility study? All of the following, ang dami, no? So we have assessing ore reserves and saleable product from delineated sources. We have the generic mine design under the engineering study, non-detailed stage life of mine planning and production scheduling, initial metallurgical studies, availability of power, water, transportation. This is very important kasi maraming mines nasa kabundukan, nasa really middle of nowhere or far-flung reaches. So paano ka ngayon kukuha ng power and water? And how do you transport your equipment and even the people from one place, from the cities up there? Okay, so preliminary financial models, you already look at the costs, the expenses that you're going to spend, and even the possible revenue and income that you're gonna get from how much material or minerals there are underneath your feet. And then mine configuration based on geology explored. Okay. So, under the PMRC 2020 edition, ang pre-feasibility ay na-define as a comprehensive study of a range of options, okay, for the technical and economic viability of a mineral project and has advanced to a stage where a preferred mining method, okay, either underground or open pit, is established and an effective method of mineral processing is already determined. You also have financial analysis, okay? You have reasonable assumptions under here. And you also consider, if you remember the PMRC diagram, yung modifying factors, dapat yung modifying factors na yun ay ma-analyze mo bawat isa if it's going to help the project, or at least will it be detrimental or it will be a setback? Will it help the project move forward towards the mineral reserve rather category or reserve category, or mag-stay ba sa mineral resource category yung inyong resource. Ayan. So to determine if all or part of the mineral resource ito lang din yung sinabi ko, kaya na ba siya ma-convert to mineral reserve at the time of reporting. Okay? So that's it for pre-feasibility study. Now, let's go to the final. Ito na yung last stage. Final feasibility study, also known as comprehensive feasibility study. Dun sa diagram kanina, if you notice, nakasulat lang siya as feasibility. Pero medyo nakakalito kasi siya. Yung tatlong stages na to, yung scoping, yung pre-feasibility and final feasibility, lahat yan feasibility studies. So to be more specific, the last stage is called the final, obviously, or comprehensive, or they have another term for this, bankable, as in bank, tapos able, bankable. Bakit bankable? Kasi ito ngayon yung ating pinapasa sa mga banks and even sa mga loan facilities. Yun, yung mga gusto mong umutang or gusto mong humingi ng investors, yan. So ito na yun. Kasi syempre, finalized na nga siya. It's the detailed assessment to ascertain not only the technical and engineering viability, but also the economic viability. So, kaya ba siyang gawin technically? Kaya ba siyang, at pangalawa, makakakuha ba tayo ng value dun sa mga produkto na kukunin? Hindi ba tayo malulugi? Kasi after all, this is a business. Okay? So, covering the ore reserve verified by the preliminary feasibility study to come up with a sound investment decision and realistic financing plan. Even though the focus here is technical and economic, no, na-mention dito technical and economic, pero it also has to have so many other factors. And we know naman na kahit na business ang mining, it's not just business, no? There's a lot of many different factors to come in as well, including, of course, your social and environmental protection. Lalo na ngayon, pag hindi mapapasa ito or hindi magpo-proceed yung project kung wala kayong plan whatsoever on what you're gonna do to mitigate the environmental impacts and what you're gonna do to help the people who are living in the area. Okay, so yun. It consists of the detailed audit of geological engineering and other relevant parameters, as I mentioned, social and environmental. Determine whether to proceed. Ito yung nagde-decide ngayon kung go or no go yung project. Okay, and then if you would see the cost estimates, mas mababa pero actually mataas pa rin siya, no, yung kanyang margin of error, plus or minus 20%. Okay, compared to the pre-feasibility, which is around 30, plus or minus 30. Okay, so itong lahat ang nilalaman, actually ano pa nga to, basic description pa to ng nilalaman ng comprehensive feasibility study, or also known as bankable or final feasibility study. So, in-establish na yung proven and probable reserves, but mostly proved or proven siya. And then project alternatives, technical viability, the mine plant, equipment and infrastructure, lahat yun, resource consent and other legal governmental conditions, management control. Technically, you're making a small community, no? So lahat, imagine niyo yung housing, patubig, pakuryente sa mga employees, the infrastructure that you're gonna build, lalo na kung zero talaga yung nandun sa lugar, yung ipapatayo, para kayong gumagawa ng small city talaga, or at least small town. Okay, and then yung infrastructure papunta doon, yung kalsada, ganyan, paano, training, recruiting ng mga crew, identifying the market for the commodity. This one is for the business side naman, no? So kanino nyo ibebenta yung yung product na makukuha ninyo? Is it going to be exported? Into which country? And then project risk areas, economic assessments, financial models, framework for the implementation. Basically, lahat ng kailangan gawin para ma-implement yung mine. Okay. So yun. This one is the definition naman in the 2020 PMRC. Okay, so very similar. Comprehensive technical and economic study of the selected development option for a mineral project that includes the following: detailed assessment, applicable to modifying factors, other operational factors, detailed financial analysis, and that are necessary to demonstrate at the time of reporting that extraction is reasonably justified at the time of reporting. So, ibig sabihin, pag nireport nyo, ibig sabihin at this time, kung today nyo siya pinasa, ibig sabihin at this time, we can justify the extraction of that material. Okay? And sabi ko nga, basis siya usually ng final decision, if it's a go or a no-go. Okay? By the way, again, if you have questions, if you have reactions, if you have, anong bang tawag dito? Comments and suggestions, or just feel free to chat or at least show them. Okay? These are the summary. This is the summary of those three. So you have scoping, pre-feasibility, and feasibility study. So take note, kapag mineral resource categories, mostly inferred, if you would remember yung categorization niya, no? Pag pre-feasibility, mostly indicated, and then pag feasibility study, measured and indicated yung resource. And then kapag mineral reserve or reserve, wala pa pag scoping. Pero kapag pre-feasibility, majority is probable, and then kapag feasibility na, more on proved na ito and probable. So baka nagtataka kayo, kahit na feasibility na siya, or at least even if operating na yung mine, meron pa ring resource ang category and meron pa ring reserve. Hindi lahat nagta-transform to reserve unless patapos na yung mine. So kasi tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang exploration, tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang prospecting even if nag-ooperate na yung mine. Kaya merong dumadagdag ang resource at yung mga yun ay nata-transfer to reserve. So they both exist. Okay? And then, mining method and geological constraints. Ito yung, if you would remember, ito ay conceptual sa scoping, preliminary options pag pre-feasibility, and detailed and optimized na kapag feasibility. Sa mine design, halos wala pa, or high-level conceptual, ibig sabihin ano pa lang, very, very crude or rudimentary pa yung mga ideas nyo about this. Parang ano pa lang, nasa ere pa siya. And then preliminary mine, plan and schedule kapag pre-feasibility, and then detailed na kapag feasibility. Scheduling, ito annual, ito 3-month to annual, and then ito mas maliit. Habang lumiliit yung time, na kino-consider mo, mas nagiging sure ka definitely about that. Kasi mas pinaplan mo yung your nitpicking details, di ba? Okay. Sa mineral processing, sa metallurgical test work, kapag scoping study, metallurgical test work muna, exploratory test. Ibig sabihin, nagte-test ka pa lang ng mga nakukuha from drilling. Pag sa pre-feasibility, you're already looking at bench or pilot scale test. Ibig sabihin, meron ka ng parang setup nung at least initial setup or pilot plant nung gagawin mong processing, okay? Tinetest mo na siya. And then ito, you're just doing optimization test works and pilot scale tests. For permitting, required permitting is listed sa scoping. Ibig sabihin, lahat ng mga possible na permits, ililista nyo lang muna. Tapos sa susunod, habang you go to feasibility, you are already working on those permits, okay? Even if feasibility study siya, many of the permits are already submitted. And if you notice, applications are already submitted and authorities are already engaged. And then social license, definitely, pag scoping, dapat as early as scoping, meron na kayong contact with the local communities. You already have conversations on how the plan is going to go about, okay? Pagdating sa pre-feasibility, may formal communication na sa structures and engagement models. And then finally, pag feasibility, may contracts na. So under the law, the communities that have mining activities actually enjoy or at least have to get a royalty from the mining company, okay? Iba-iba yung rates ng royalty, no? Pero when you say royalty, ibig sabihin, a certain percentage, kapag nakakuha yung mine, okay, percentage agad, punta agad sa community. So, ibig sabihin, kumikita sila. Okay, aside pa yung sa lahat ng mga ginagawa ng mining companies for the community, no? So, yun. And then, risk tolerance, definitely high risk kapag scoping, medium risk kapag pre-feasibility, and low risk kapag final. So, feasibility lang to, no? Pero, in this class, I would like to emphasize that we will use the terms final and bankable or ayun, yun yung gagamitin nating term. And then the collective term for all of these are feasibility studies, okay? For this class, para hindi tayo nagkakalituhan. Okay? So yun na yung feasibility studies. Do you have questions? Mukhang madali lang naman siya. If you know at least the general idea on how those three are different, you would actually have an easy time reviewing, okay, or remembering. Okay? Okay, so mukha namang walang questions. Okay naman yata kayo. So, pero kung meron, palagay na lang sa chat. Ay, meron pala. Sige, mamaya natin sagutin yung questions, no? Okay, at the Q&A session. Okay, next subtopic would be the following calculation. So, ready na yung inyong calculators, we're going to calculate. Okay, so we're going to study the gross value, the concepts of gross value, profit, grade, and tonnage. Okay, these are terms that we've been seeing for the past few weeks, but at least for the next minutes or the next hour or so, we will learn how to calculate them. Okay, so first thing that we need to discuss is gross value and profit calculation. So ano ba ang gross value? Okay, are you familiar with the term gross value? By the way, ang pronunciation niyan talaga ay gross, okay? Hindi siya gross. There's no such word as gross, okay? Yung sa mga financials, no, hindi yan gross. So, it's supposed to be gross. Sabi naman iba, anong gross kadire? No, it's really gross. Like, the pronunciation is gross. So, if you want to be legit and if you want to sound professional, it's supposed to be gross value, okay? So, ang gross value is also known as another term for many of us. If you would remember in your basic education or even entrepreneurial studies, or at least ano ba mga tawag sa studies niyo before on that, PLE, ganyan, araling, hindi ko alam, pangkabuhayan or something. Okay, so gross value might be new to you, but there is one word that is very synonymous or at least equivalent to gross value, and it starts with an R. Do you know that term? Try to look at this formula. If you have the grade, how much material there is, tapos multiply mo siya sa recovery in terms of percent, ibig sabihin how much percent of the material you're gonna get, and then you multiply it with the price. Ibig sabihin yung price ng metal. So, makukuha nyo yung may sumagot, no? The answer is actually revenue. Okay, so yan, revenue. So some of you got the correct answer. So gross value is equal to revenue. Okay, take note of that. Okay, so how do we get the revenue or the gross value? Again, it's the grade. Grade is again the percentage of the metal or the mineral in the ground. So if something is by the way, if you notice may dalawang units, no, percent and grams per metric ton. Kasi magkakaiba siya depende sa commodity. Ang gold, ang kanyang price actually ay naka US dollars per troy ounce, okay? So medyo madami-dami tayong units na aralin, no? So pero yung grade ng gold ay naka grams per metric ton. So take note of that. So ibig sabihin, pag nag-calculate kayo, you have to take note or at least, excuse me, be mindful of the units. Sana ay marunong kayo mag-dimensional analysis, no, from high school sa chem. Important siya sa units. Yung ano, yung may parang fractions tapos ika-cancel yung mga units. Make sure na pag magka-cancel yung units, isa nasa numerator, isa nasa denominator. I hope that rings a bell. Okay, so yon. Kasi again, ang gold, for example, ang grade niya ay grams per metric ton, ang recovery niya ay percent, tapos ang price niya naka US dollars per troy ounce. Okay? So ibig sabihin, yung troy ounce ay ko-convert niyo sa grams para mag-cancel siya nung grams dito. And ang equivalent na troy ounce ay, na-mention ko na to before, pero let me write it down here. And I think there was a time na nagkamali ako, nag-off yung value ko, no? But 1 troy ounce, ayan, gumagana siya. 1 troy ounce. Ganito siya isulat, no? OZT, 1 troy ounce, is equal to 31.1035 grams. That is the conversion factor for, ano tawag dito, troy ounce to grams. So, ibig sabihin, kung may gold yung pinag-uusapan natin, if you multiply grams per metric ton by recovery times price na naka dollars per grams, okay, ano ang final unit ng gross value? Paki-answer naman. Think about it. Ano magiging final na value ng ng ating gross value? Magiging, we're looking for revenue or at least magkano yung kikitain. So ibig sabihin naka-dollars per metric ton. Okay? So yun. Okay, I'm not sure if you're getting. Pero mamaya, pag ginawa natin example, baka magets nyo. Okay. So, ang silver, gold, and platinum, lahat ito ay US dollars per troy ounce ang presyo sa market. Baka nagtataka kayo, ano yung COMEX? COMEX is the, anong tawag dito? Commodity exchange. Di ba kung meron tayong stock exchange, yan, ito commodity exchange, siya yung COMEX. Ang COMEX, just sa trivia, ay combination, pinag-merge dati yung Mercantile Exchange, New York Mercantile Exchange, NYMEX, saka Commodity Exchange, basically. Pinag-combine sila, tas COMEX siya. So sila ang nagdidictate, or at least dyan, nyo titignan kung ano ba ang current price. Okay, so yun. And then sa industrial metals naman, we have copper, aluminum, zinc, and tin. Ang copper, both for COMEX and LME. Pag sabi namang LME, makikita nyo dito ano yung LME na yan. That's London Metal Exchange. So, hindi lang iisa yung, ano man tawag dyan? Hindi siya organization eh. Body na nagde-dictate, or at least not dictate. Kasi tinitrade din yan eh, parang stocks, no? So, sila yung, doon nade-determine rather yung price. London Metal Exchange for some other non-precious metals, like base metals, and then for the precious metals, like gold, silver, and platinum, dun sa COMEX, okay? And even copper pala, ayan. May version ng copper na COMEX. Yes. So, ano bang gusto ko sabihin dito? Relatively mataas, nagtataas ang presyo nila through time. Lahat ng metals. Kasi naalala ko, nung estudyante pa ako, which was just 4 years or 5 years ago, ang ginagamit naming value ng gold ay 1,200. So, ngayon 1,800 almost na siya. So, ang laki ng in-increase ng gold. So, lalo na siguro pag graduate kayo, di ba? So, yeah. Okay, anong gusto ko sabihin? So, if you have the revenue or gross value, how do you get the profit now? How do you get how much you will earn? Definitely, ibabawas mo yung ginastos mo para makuha yung material. Okay, parang sa business lang, 'di ba? Yung tubo, ano ba yung tubo? Tubo is teka, naku, mukhang mahirapan tayo sa Filipino. Tubo ba ay yung profit? Tama, 'di ba? Tubo is profit. Yes, yes, tama. Kapag may binili ka na puhunan, yon, the puhunan is the anong tawag dito? Not the revenue eh. Anyways, ang hirap mag-Filipino. Anyways, ganito na lang. Pag bumili ka ng something ng ibebenta mo, ba, ano ba mga babentang product ngayon? Sige, iPhone. Kung nga ayan, benta ka ng gadgets. Nabili mo yung isang iPhone na retail ng 50,000, tapos ibebenta mo siya ng 60,000, basically, di ba? So, yung 60,000, yun yung revenue mo, okay? Revenue mo yung 60,000, pero yung cost na ibabawas mo doon ay yung how much yung ginastos mo para mabenta mo yon. Of course, syempre namasahe ka o kaya ano pa ba, nag-endorse ka online, may binayaran ka na ano, lahat ng ginastos mo, okay, para mabenta mo yung 60,000 na phone. Okay, sabihin natin gumastos ka ng mga siguro 5,000, kung nga yun yung cost mo. So nawalan ka ng 5,000. Pero yung profit mo, okay, if you notice, the profit would actually be 60,000 minus 5,000, which is 55. Ibig sabihin, kumita ka pa rin, may profit ka pa rin na, tama ba? Tama ba yung analogy ko? Pero actually, nilabas mo din yung pera mo, no, na 50,000, no? So technically, yung profit mo talaga ay 10,000 or 5,000 lang kasi overall. Yun. Hindi siya magandang example, pero pero let's see. Okay, kung wari, mas maganda siguro pag nakita natin dito, medyo hindi siya 1:1. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible for you guys, but maybe you can get it with this example here. Okay, so I'll show the formula. Okay, let me erase the troy ounce kasi we don't need that for this example. Okay, so let's estimate the unit profit in dollars per ton, okay, TON, of mining and processing a copper ore body averaging 0.60% by weight copper if the selling price of copper in the concentrate is $4.2 for every pound, assuming that the overall cost of mining and processing is $6.8 per every ton. Overall recovery based the overall recovery is based on the metallurgical engineering to be expected at 92% of the copper. Okay, in any word problem, just like the basic word problems, no, we should identify which is which. In this case, what we are trying to look for the unit profit. But to get the unit profit, we need to get the gross value and the cost. Okay, do we know the cost? Yes or no? Do we know the cost? And what is it? What is the cost according to the problem? Pakilagay sa chat, help me out, so you will learn. I will not give you everything. How much is the cost? As mentioned in the problem, okay, that's correct. So someone said $6.8 per ton. So yun na siya. So this one, okay, is 6.8. Okay lang magkamali ha, don't mind. Okay lang, huwag kayo mahiya na magkamali kasi hindi pa naman to quiz. This is just an exercise. So mas maganda nandito magkamali no kaysa sa final. Okay, now we have to get the gross value. How may binigay bang gross value outright doon sa problem? Meron bang gross value sa problem? Yes? No? I mean, yung binigay ba mismo yung value ng gross value or do we have to compute for the gross value? Yes, that's correct. We have to compute. So definitely, yung gross value ay makukuha mo from here. Okay? So, we need to get the grade, the recovery, and price. So, binigay ba yung grade? What's the grade? Pakilagay sa chat, please. Yung iba sa inyo, kung mabilis kayo mag-isip, mabilis kayong advance mag-isip. Kung mabilis kayo mag-calculate, then you can, by all means, you can already calculate what the answer is. But for the rest, baka nahihirapan, no? Baka mahuli. So, this is 0.6, okay? But take note, this is 0.6%, right? So, it should be ang grade natin ay 0.6%. So kapag decimal, yun pala, nakalimutan ko sabihin yun, no? Pero I hope it's intuitive to you. So we have to make it into a decimal. Diba? So 0.006. Dito marami nagkakamali. To be honest, nung estudyante din ako, lagi ko nakakalimutan na. Lalo na pwede naman siya sa calculator, no? Type nyo 0.6%. Basta wag nyo kakalimutan yung percent sa cycle. Pero kapag, 0.006. Okay, next, recovery. What's the recovery here? It's easy also. And make sure that it's also in decimal. What's the recovery? 92%, so we write 0.92. I hope you're getting why I'm writing it as such, okay? And then finally, the price. What is the price of the copper per pound? This one is, hello? Anyone in the chat? No one is answering. Okay, 4.2. What's the unit of this? This is dollars. I will keep the units. It's wise to keep the units because you will need to take note of that. Okay, so ibig sabihin, kapag nakuha nyo yung gross value na to, paki-calculate please, what's the value that you will get? Yung gross value muna. What's the gross value? The value is, anyone who got the correct answer? Paki-calculate please. Okay, so 0.0231184. Okay. This is per pound. Yes, dollars per pound. Okay. Parang ang liit, no? Parang may nakalimutan akong ano. Wait lang. Tama ba yung ginawa ko? Wait lang. Let's see. Actually, nandito na sa kabilang slides yung ano, yung tamang sagot. Okay, alam ko na. Naalala ko na. Sige. Naalala ko na. May na-miss tayong step. Anyways, going back. Sige. Tama. Hindi, that's correct. Napansin din ng iba. Hindi tumutugma yung dollars per pound sa dollars per ton. If you notice, the answer that we got is 0.023184 dollars per every pound. But we have to subtract from that dollars per ton. Okay, so we have to convert both for the same units, no? So to be able to convert both in the same units, and we're looking for, dapat yung answer natin ay for every TON, right? So you have to know the conversion factor. So what's the conversion factor for short ton to pounds? That's actually 2,000 pounds is 1 ton, also known as short ton. I haven't introduced you yet to the concept of ton, metric ton, short ton. There's hindi lahat ng tons pare-pareho ha. But this one, in this case, kapag TON, it's short ton and it's 2,000 pounds. So with that given, can you please convert this one that we got, the 0.023184 dollars per pound to dollars per ton? And then that's what we're going to write here, dito sa box na aking gagawin. Paki-calculate please kapag naka per ton. How much do we get? Okay, that's 46 point, let me check. Yes, that's correct. 46.368. And then finally, okay, that's naka dollars per ton na. And then finally, you will get the final answer. What is now the profit that we will get? Profit, please. In the chat. Paki-type sa chat. What's the profit? Okay, ito yung ginawa natin. Okay, I'll now erase everything that we put here. Ay, hindi naman. Maybe this one's at the bottom. Ito lang din yon yung sinulat ko, no? Buburahin ko na yung sinulat ko. Ito lang din yung sinulat ko. And then, let's retain the conversion factor sa taas. Okay? And then the profit is, okay, someone got the correct answer. This is the profit. So it's easy, right? Very easy. Nothing, no math 21 information required. This is just like a simple, even I think if a grade school student would know the concept, no, kayang-kaya siyang isolve. Okay? So now, okay, let's add another dimension to the problem. What is the revenue and profit of the mine if its daily tonnage is 30,000 short tons per day? Okay, so let's try to be realistic here. Many medium to small scale sized mines would actually have daily tonnage of their materials at around this amount. 30,000, 45,000, malaki na nga yun. So 15 to, siguro mga 20 to 45 to 50,000 tons per day. So ginamit ko yung 30. So in a mine that mines 30,000 tons of rock per day, how much revenue and profit will they get? Paki-calculate, please. How do you get the answer there? You will just multiply it to the ones that we got earlier. So ganun lang siya. How much? How much? How much? Pakigawa po. If you notice, I'm asking you to do it kasi if I just say it to you and you do not do it, you might forget. It's really learning by doing. You have to do it. So how much? How much is the revenue or the gross value and profit? Okay? So someone put it in the chat. Sige. It has to be a lot of money. It's a lot of money, definitely. It's millions of dollars. So may nakakakuha na ng gross value. The gross value is $1.3 million. 1.4, almost $1.39 million per day. So ganyang kalaki ang kinikita ng isang minahan sa isang araw. Copper mine to Imagine, hindi lang naman copper ang madalas kung may copper, meron ding gold yan. So iba pa yung calculations nun. So imagine how much money a mine would get in a day. Okay? And then profit. Okay, ang gastos nila halimbawa ay ganyan. So magkano? At actually na-flash ko na, wala naglagay sa chat, pero ito yung kanilang makukuhang profit. Okay? So very easy calculations. What are the realizations here? There's a lot of money to be gained from mining activity once it's operational. Imagine that. So did you know a mine would actually work, or at least walang pahinga sa mine for the next years na mag-ooperate siya, 5 to 10 or 20 or even more years, 365 days a year nag-ooperate ang mine. So, yun, ganun karami. So, you're talking about millions or even tens of millions of dollars. Ito so ang kinikita. Okay, so next would be, let's talk about grade and quality. Okay, erase ko muna yung aking nasa screen. So grade and quality, if you would remember, it's the concentration of minerals or metals. We've been talking about this for a while. Let's add another sub-definition, or at least a kind of grade. So may tinatawag tayong cutoff grade. It is an artificial boundary. Okay, take note, cutoff grade is an artificial boundary that demarcates or marks between low grade and the techno-economically viable ore. Okay, so ibig sabihin, in mines, they would actually set a cutoff grade. Okay, ibig sabihin sa mine, more sometimes not sometimes, more often than not, the management or even the engineers would set this na parang ang imiminahin lang natin ay lahat ng ganitong grade pataas. Okay? Kapag lower than, let's say, yung kanina, ano yung example kanina, how much grade is that? I think that's 0.6%. Ayun. So kung yun ang cutoff grade, halimbawa, sabihin natin, lahat ng lower than 0.6, di na natin miminahin. So that's the cutoff grade. Okay? So this changes with the complexity of the mineral distribution. Many, many factors affect this. So kapag halimbawa, nag-change yung, napansin nyo na iba pala yung part na minimina nyo dun sa ore body, nag-change yung mining method, nag-change yung production rate, metallurgical recovery, cost of production, royalty taxes, commodity price in the international markets, lahat ito ay pwedeng maka-affect sa cutoff grade. At nagbabago-bago siya talaga from time to time. So, so maraming factors. So, the very basic gist to this is halimbawa, kapag tumaas ang presyo ng metal sa market, would you want to get more minerals or you want to get less? Definitely, kapag tumaas, gusto mo magbenta ka pa na mas marami. So, ina-adjust nila yung cutoff grade. Okay? So, yun. I hope you get the general idea. So, yun yung cutoff grade na ina-adjust. Okay? So, yun. But that's just one factor. Now, we go to tonnage. Okay, tonnage. We already saw one type of ton. Okay, one type of ton or one type of tonnage, which is the short ton. Okay, short ton is equal to 2,000 pounds per short ton, also known as ST or TON. Pero I think many of you are more familiar since we are in a country that mostly follows the SI or the International System of Units. We know metric ton. I think you know what metric ton is, and metric ton is equal to 1,000 kilograms. So yun yung aware tayo, no? Most of the blue here in the map ay nagpa-follow ng metric ton, okay? So, may ilang countries na lang na hindi. Pero actually, ang Philippines, kakaiba tayo. Naalala ko may napanood akong TikTok video ba yun? Or sometimes, hindi lahat ng TikTok video ay fake news. Meron din mga informative from time to time. Okay, so interesting fact na ang Philippines ay kahit na sumusunod tayo sa SI, no? Ang dami nating units na nakakatawa kasi may influence ang Americans. Ang Americans kasi gumagamit pa rin sila ng ang tawag dito, anong tawag sa system nila? American units. United States customary system daw, ayan. So, they still use ounce. Kaya nakakainis, di ba? Yung pag bibili tayo ice cream, maraming bumibili sa atin, gallon pa rin yung units. Okay, sa water, di ba gallon? Pero, ayun, ang weird nun, gallon, yung sa ice cream. Pero pag, sa Coke or sa soft drinks, pareho din, merong ounce, 8 ounce, tapos meron ding ml. So, ang weird, di ba, ang both systems. Tapos sa timbang, we usually use, mas madalas na gamit yung kilos. Pero pagdating sa height, inches yung ginagamit natin. 5'7", 5'4", ganyan, di ba? So, hindi centimeter. So, ang weird. So, we're kind of a mixed culture. So, ayan, dagdagan na lang din natin yung mga complications. So sa tonnage, ayan, kaya dapat alam natin itong mga to. So metric ton is 1,000 kilograms or 2204.623 pounds. Yung kaninang inintroduce ko ay short tons, okay? Meron pa tayong tinatawag na long tons. So tatlo yan, okay, na basic. Yung long ton, this is also known as the British or UK or also known as imperial ton. It's 2240 pounds, okay? Okay, so ang madaling i-memorize dito yung mga walang decimal, no? So 1,000 kilograms kapag metric, 2240 kapag long ton, and then short ton is 2,000 pounds. And then you just convert from one term to another. Ang metric ton is MT, also known as TONNE. Kapag may NE sa dulo, yun yung metric ton. Kapag TON lang, short ton. Pero meron ding spelling na metric TON. So, ang gulo, diba? Tapos meron ding LT for long ton and ST for short ton. So, I hope you get familiar with those things and be careful. So, yung kanina sa problem, that's actually short ton kasi TON lang siya. Okay? Itong mga green na countries, lahat yan ay gumagamit pa ng long ton. Okay? So, kahit lahat ay recognize ang metric ton, meron pa ring long ton. So, magulo talaga siya. Maraming tons. Tapos, meron pa sa metallurgy, if you are familiar, meron din tinatawag na assay ton. Pero itong assay ton, wala tong kinalaman sa tatlong to. Itong tatlong to ay yung measurement of the tonnage or the mass. But the assay ton is not a unit of measurement, but it's a standard quantity. Pag sabing, give me 1 assay ton, so that's, depende no kung short pa siya or long. Kung short ay 29 and 1/6 grams, and then long assay ton is 32 and 2/3 grams of a certain quantity when you're assaying. Kaya siya assay ton kasi kapag nag-assay ka ng ores. When you say assay, you're actually getting the metal content or you're isolating it from the rest of the ore. For example, kumuha ka ng drill core sample, tapos dinurog mo siya, kinrush mo, tapos pinadaan mo ng different processes, tapos hinit mo at several thousands of degrees Celsius. Tapos nakuha mo yung gold. Tapos nakakuha ka ng 21 and 1/6 grams. So that's one short assay ton of gold. So yun, ganun, okay? So I hope you get it. Pero wala talaga siyang, ewan ko kung bakit ton siya, pero wala talaga siyang kinalaman dito sa tatlong to. Mas medyo may ang tawag dito, mas malapit ang usage nitong tatlo at pinagpapalit-palit yan for some reason. So you have to be careful. Okay? Okay, so next, let's talk about specific gravity versus tonnage factor. So, ano ang specific gravity and tonnage factor? I think many of you are familiar with specific gravity, no? Recall, ano nga bang specific gravity? Okay, these two are actually used for conversion of volume to mass. Okay, ang purpose niya dito sa ating EM ay conversion ng volume to mass. Okay, ang specific gravity, just to recall, this is a unitless quantity, while tonnage factor, ito baka hindi kayo familiar, no? Ang tonnage factor ay cubic feet per short ton. Okay, cubic feet per ton of ore. ang specific gravity ay density of a certain material dinivide sa density of water, which is 1. Ang density of water na 1, dapat careful kayo sa units. Ang density ng water ay 1 metric ton per cubic meters. Also known as, pwede ring 1 metric ton per cubic meter or 1 gram per cubic cm. You might want to check that kung tumutugma ba yun. Pero yun ang density ng water. So doon mo i-divide yung density of material. And the density of material, the unit of the density of material divided by either metric ton per cubic meter of water or even grams per cubic centimeters of water, makakancel out yung unit, kaya siya nagiging unitless. Pero, ang kagandahan sa specific gravity, pag minultiply mo siya sa cubic meter na volume ng ore, nakukuha mo yung tonnage in metric tons nung ore na yun. Okay, yun ang kagandahan niya. Pag alam mo yung specific gravity, just multiply it with whatever volume of ore mineral, if you know the SG of that mineral, and then you can get the tonnage. Pang-convert, basically, ang purpose natin sa specific gravity, no? Yun, as in direct multiplication. Ang tonnage factor, medyo may complication kasi may unit siya. So, kung naka-cubic feet yung ore mo, yung volume ng ore mo, you have to multiply by the reciprocal, take note, of the tonnage factor to get the tonnage in short tons. Okay? So the difference between the two, specific gravity is more on for SI, and then tonnage factor is more of for the other unit system. So particularly short tons. Okay? Take note, tonnage factor yung pangalan niya. Okay? Maraming nalilito dito. Tonnage factor, pero hindi naman siya minumultiply kasi ang factor, di ba, minumultiply to get the product. So, pero hindi siya minumultiply sa reciprocal. So, pakitandaan na lang yun. So, bakit may dalawang ganito? Kasi iba-iba nga yung tonnage natin. Pero the question is, how do you convert from one form to another? Kung alam mo yung SG, kaya mo ba makuha yung tonnage factor and vice versa? Yes, by this formula. We will not derive it anymore, but look at this and keep note of this. Okay? You might want to memorize that, perhaps. Yes. Madali lang naman siya. Kasi the upper part of the equation is just the conversion. 2,000 pounds is to 1 short ton. And then the denominator is just the specific gravity multiplied by 62.4 pounds per cubic feet. Ano yung 62.4? That's a constant. That's actually the unit weight of water. Diba? Yan yung, kung ang water ay 1 metric ton per cubic meter or 1 gram per cubic centimeter, pag ganito ang units, pag pounds per cubic feet, ito ang weight ng water. 62.4 pounds ang tubig for every cubic feet. So yun. Yun lang yung bumubuo sa formula. So now let us try to convert. Okay? Let's say, ay may sagot na. Bakit nauna yung sagot bago yung tanong? Wala. Sige, hayaan nyo na. Interpret na lang natin. Sige. Ang weird. Malito. Inayos ko to kagabi. Sabi ko na antok na ako kagabi. Anyways, nauna yung sagot bago sa tanong. Okay. So if SG daw is 4.945, ano ngayon yung tonnage factor? And how much tonnage do you have if you have 1,200 cubic feet of rock? Sige, unang tanong muna tayo. Kung ang SG ay 4.945, anong tonnage factor? So you just plug it in. So 2,000 pounds for every short ton divided by 4.945 times 62.4, makukuha niyo yung tonnage factor na 6.48 cubic feet per short ton. Tapos, just multiply that by the tonnage. Actually, not multiply, no? Multiply the reciprocal. I just said this, na ang tonnage factor ay minumultiply as a reciprocal to the volume to get 185.185 short tons. That's how easy it is. Okay? So, paano kapag halimbawa ang tanong ay how much tonnage is there in terms of metric tons? So, ibig sabihin, you would have to convert short tons to metric ton. Okay? And I think you would be able to do that kasi you already know the conversion of metric tons to short tons, okay? Which I showed you earlier, okay? So pakiisip lang, thought, kaya ba siya? Yes, definitely. Hindi siya mahirap. Hindi siya integration, hindi siya differentiation. So I think you can do that very easy. We won't do that anymore, but please at least be familiarized, okay? Next, how do we calculate naman the specific gravity of ore? Okay. So, baka nagtataka kayo, paano siya nako-compute? So, yung SG actually, kaya ring makuha or at least may scientific method na hindi natin di-discuss no, para makuha yung SG ng different minerals. But for a certain ore, dahil comprised of different materials, the very basic rudimentary procedure for that is you just get the weighted average specific gravity using the specific gravities of the individual minerals, provided that the relative percentages of the ore minerals present are accurately known. What does this mean? So, ibig sabihin, kapag may ganitong tanong, what is the specific gravity of an ore that is comprised of 50% quartz, 25% feldspar, and then 25% magnetite, use maximum value daw according to this table. Ayan. So, kaya ba natin makalculate ang SG using these? Ang sinabi lang dito, weighted average. So, basically, weighted average. Marunong ba kayo mag-weighted average? I hope marunong, no? Ito din yung ginagamit pang compute ng inyong grades sa CRS, yung final grade. Okay? So, depende sa units, i-multiply yun sa grade ninyo times the units, tapos gawin yun sa lahat ng subjects ninyo, tapos add nyo muna yung sum of the products, and then divide that by the total number of units that you have. And then you get the GWA. Kaya siya tinatawag na general weighted average, diba? So, dito naman, ganun din, same concept. Can you please do this? Anyone? Or actually everyone, can you please calculate? Ano ang magiging specific gravity ng ore na 50% quartz? Kung ang quartz ay 2.6 ang SG, tapos 25% feldspar, kung ang feldspar ay use maximum value 2.76, and 25% magnetite, which is 5.17. How do you know if your answer is correct here? The answer that you should get should be between all of those values. Should be between 2.6, 2.76, and 5.17. Kasi yun yung components niya. Dapat hindi nalalayo dun sa tatlong yun yung values mo. So, did anyone get the answer? Someone got the answer. Okay. Someone put the answer in the chat. So the answer is actually, ay wala na. Hindi niya pinakita. 3.825. Ay, 3.2825. Tama yung sagot na nasa chat. How do you get 3.2825? Okay, multiply niyo muna 0.5 times 2.6 plus 0.25 times 2.76 plus 0.25 times 5.17 divided by, ano yung nasa denominator? 1. Bakit 1? Kasi percent siya at lahat ng ito ay magto-total to 100%. Okay? Okay? So, is equal to 3.2825. Kung di nyo man nakuha, sulat na lang 3.2825 for now, and then you just try to do this at your own spare time. But it's supposed to be easy. Okay? Now, for getting the average grade of ore, it's the similar procedure. Weighted average din siya. Ang nag-iiba lang yung weights, okay? Kapag ang binigay ay mga drill holes, like yung, di ba, drilling, if you're getting the weighted average grade of the drill holes, you use the lengths as the weights. Pero kapag ano naman, weighted average grade with the tonnages per section is given as weights, then, if you want to get the average grade of the ore in a certain ore body na, yung buo na, dapat ang tonnages na ang iyong weights. Okay, hindi ko alam kung nagigets nyo to, no? Pero let's see the examples. Yung A na to, yung weighted average grade with the length as weights if drill holes. Ito yung example niya. I know ang daming numbers, no? Pero pakikalimutan mo na lahat to. Ito, drill holes lang. Tapos, ang tandaan nyo lang yung interval sa itong mga grades na to. So, paano makuha yung weighted average grade? Ito yun, yung weighted mean. So, you just multiply the thickness or at least the depth of the drill holes by the grade. In this case, paano nakuha yung 3.53? Sorry, kapag tinry nyo to on your own, pag in-upload yung slides, mapapansin nyo yung sagot dito iba kasi kulang to parang pinutol na tong ano. So, pero the general procedure is multiply this by this, multiply this by this, and so on. Tapos the product, yung sagot doon ay i-add nyo tapos di-divide sa total depth. And then you get the weighted mean. Weighted average lang. Ganun lang kasimple, weighted average. Ganun din dito, ganun din dito. Okay? Tapos pansinin ninyo yung units ng AG or ng silver ay naka-grams per metric ton ito, grams per metric ton. Ito ay naka-percent, percent, percent, percent. Kapag manganese, lead, zinc, and copper, naka-percent. Okay. Something to take note lang. And then, ano ba itong mga nandito? Okay, pinakita lang niya yung indicated mineral resource and inferred mineral resource. Grades, okay? Grade ng mga yon. So, kinumpare lang. Yun. But my point here is, kapag drill holes, ang weights ay drill, yung depth or length. Yun yung gusto ko i-point out. Doon tayo sa B. Kapag naman tonnages yung weights. I'll show you an example dun sa pangalawa, no? So, ito tayo. Kapag tonnage, nasaan yung tonnage? Ayan, tonnage and grade, multiply nyo yung tonnage sa grade. So, ito yung sagot. Ito yung mga i-multiply. Lahat ng tons multiply by the grade. So, ito siya. Tapos, add nyo yun. Tapos, divide that by the total tonnage. Ito, kaya yan. 790,000 divided by 858 to get the average grade of the entire deposit, which is 0.92. Okay? Babalikan natin tong figure na to later on. Pero for now, focus lang dito sa last three. Ay, tas nandito din pala yung tonnage factor, no, if you notice. So, tingnan nyo to. Kapag may, wag na muna yung polygon. Sige, saka na yan. Pero yung volume, kapag alam nyo na yung volume, multiply it by the reciprocal of the tonnage factor, you get the tonnage. Okay, so yun. Yun lang. Something to take note of. And then, actually, that's it for this. Okay. This is the last slide. Ang gusto ko lang i-point out dito, go back to the lesson of the shapes of your deposits. Even if you drill, if you remember drilling, no? Kapag nag-drill ka, di ba may makukuha kang, may intersect ka dun sa ore body. You have to be careful what type of ore body there is. Kasi, pwedeng i-assume mo na tuloy-tuloy siya like this, or mamaya hindi pala siya tuloy-tuloy. Kasi mamaya yun lang pala yung may mga merong ore, or at least, yung metal na hinahanap mo or mineral na hinahanap mo. So, be careful lang with the assumption of whether it is continuous, the ore is continuous or discontinuous. Diba? Parang ano siya, mapanling lang. Baka nga pala, ganito pala itsura. Akala mo tuloy-tuloy. Akala mo ang dami mo ng pera, pero konti pala yung may estimate mo dun sa iyong ore body. That's just something to take note of. Okay? So it's important to know what type of shape it is. It's disseminated or continuous. Like this one is flat. Okay? We don't have any more time to continue. So I will again continue next time. But I will end this for now. If you have questions,